during 2020.
If I can just land on this point.
Once you are landing, because food was served, free food. Electricity or other sort of tariffs for utilities were also reduced for the ordinary Ghanaian.
What kind of free food are you talking about?
And then also health workers were given some relief.
Look,
despite what the Auditor General says.
All
the government says that all these were done.
All that was a ruse by our leaders to cream off state resources. And the Auditor General's report on COVID expenditure bears that out. COVID-19, even though was a public health crisis that claimed many lives, became a corruption bonanza for the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. That is how cruel they are.
How do you draw
that monies meant for managing such a health crisis and for saving the lives of our people were misappropriated and in some cases looted by our duty bearers. I'm not saying it. The Auditor General is saying so. But even before I give you evidence to buttress that, I was making the point that they had in excess of 30 billion to manage COVID. Yet, according to the Auditor General, they only spent about 12 billion on COVID-19. Meaning that they had in excess of 18 billion Ghana cedis, which they did not spend on COVID. They claim to have spent it on budget support. The euphemism for their wastage. Roland, you understand me? Now, if COVID-19 gave this nation more than we needed to even manage its impact on our economy, in fact, 18 billion cedis more than we needed, then COVID-19 cannot reasonably be said to be the reason for our economic woes.
Then what?
Let's be objective here. The problem has to do with the wastage and the corruption that this government has engaged in the last 6.5 years. That is the problem. Look, I was talking to you earlier about how they looted and misappropriated COVID funds. You spoke about food. Do you know that this government claims that during the 3 weeks of partial lockdown, not in the entire Ghana, but just in Kumasi, Kaswa, and Accra, sections of Accra, if I can say so, they spent a whopping 12 million Ghana cedis on hot meals. That is equivalent to 120 billion old Ghana cedis on hot meals. And you know the kind of hot meals I'm talking about here. Kinky without fish, rice and some egg, gari with sugar and so on. 120 billion OCDs. And when the Auditor General asked them for receipts, they had none to show. They only had honor certificates. When the companies which supply these hot meals are registered companies, registered with the GRA, some registered under school feeding, and according to the Auditor General, should have given government receipts for those expenditures. You know why they had no receipts to show for? Because they squandered the money. They spent another 5.6 million cedis, equivalent to 56 billion OCDs on hot meals. As for that expenditure, there were no honor certificates or receipts to show for. You recall that they told us that they were giving us free water, okay, only to turn around 1 year after to impose a draconian COVID levy on us, a tax we continue to pay to date. The amount of money they paid for that so-called free water was 37.4 million cedis, equivalent to 370 billion OCDs. When the Auditor General was auditing this expenditure item, and he requested for water bills buttressing these payments, government had nothing to show for. Can you believe that? In which country can this happen? COVID money meant for saving lives. Do you know that this government was so cruel that even medical equipment, which were purchased with COVID funds, worth $250,000, received at the central medical source and dispatched to specific hospitals, never got to the hospitals? They sold the equipment as well. They gave a contract worth 1.4 million cedis, that is some 14 billion old Ghana cedis, to a company called Modern Securities Printing Limited. What was the contract for? To educate SHS students on COVID-19 safety protocols. Roland, what are the protocols? Wash your hand, use sanitizer, wear face mask, ensure social distancing. Something that teachers in these schools could have done for free. They spent 14 billion OCDs on that. And when the Auditor General checked, the contractor did not do the education, he didn't do the job, yet has been paid in full. Is this not naked thievery? Masa, in Bawomia's hometown, Nalerigu, they gave a contract for the construction of an isolation center worth $15 million. Paid an advance of $4.5 million to the contractor without taking any performance bond or any form of guarantee. The contractor took the money and never stepped at the site till date. And we have still not retrieved these monies. According to the Auditor General, over 543 million Ghana cedis, that is some 5.4 trillion OCDs, was spent on COVID by this government outside the GIFME system in breach of law. So COVID was only an avenue for them to milk the state coffers, to enrich themselves. When they blame all their woes on COVID, why? Is it because of COVID that we can't pay our debts? Is it because of COVID that today the lending rate in Ghana has increased from averagely 25% in 2016 to close to 40%, in some banks 45%? Master, tell me, how will businesses cope? How can you take a loan from a bank and be charged an interest rate of 40 to 45%? How will you survive this?